everybody. Welcome to Reclaiming Fertility Joy, Healing the Broken Spirit of Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. I am your host, Corey Ray Kovacs, registered nurse and women's wellness coach and educator. And I am so excited today. I have the most amazing woman that I have got to get to know over the last few weeks. And her name's Alycia Israel. And I am so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and thinking of me. And, when we connected, I just felt really honored, honestly, to help you with your project. I love what you're doing. It's phenomenal. So I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here
Yes,
for it.
we are here for it. So, well, let's talk a little bit about you through this. So, Alycia Israel is in the health and fitness industry for almost 15 years, helping bridge the gap between Western medicine and women's health so that women can conquer their fitness goals and achieve optimal hormone health. Alycia has a master's degree in exercise physiology, along with 17 functional nutrition and exercise certifications. She currently owns Alycia's Barbell, LLC, which is an online women's health coaching company designed to help women achieve their health and fitness goals homeopathically and also strengthen their mindset so they can show up as the badass they are every damn day. I love that so much. I am all for it and here for you. So, this is such an amazing area to be a part of, is understanding the complex nature of women's hormones and how that relates to nutrition and exercise and lifestyle. I would love to know what role does nutrition, diet, and lifestyle play in managing polycystic ovarian syndrome, and how has that kind of driven what you do for women?
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, you crushed the bio. I love it. Crushed it. Crushed the bio. Everything, right? You think about what we put in our body, what we do every day, our environment, not just even nutritionally and exercise, but who we surround ourselves with, stress management, mental health. All of those things matter to all women and all humans on this earth. But specifically, when we're looking at women with PCOS, it matters even more, right? Because we have a hormone consideration, and I say consideration, right? Because we want to make sure that when we have PCOS, if that's you and you're listening, that it is not the end all be all, right? Like, we can manage that. So looking at it as a consideration versus giving up and feeling like a victim, that unfortunately a lot of women can feel like if they're not given the right support. So ultimately, when we're looking at nutrition and exercise and lifestyle from a woman in the perspective, if she has PCOS, it's similar to how we would recommend for any woman, but with more of an emphasis on what is sustainable for that woman. Because I don't know if you've noticed, or I'm sure all of you who have Googled the best diet for PCOS, and what pops up. All the restrictive diets, like all these crazy things. And you're told a lot of eliminate this, don't do this, a lot of negative language. But the way I view it is, let's stop looking at what we have to give up and look at what we should include.
Right. And this is a really great point that you have about really feeling empowered. Women that are going through the fertility journey, me personally, I went through this myself a decade ago, and I cannot tell you how disempowered I felt. I felt like my body was broken, that I wasn't going to be able to get pregnant. And it took a lot of time. And honestly, I didn't feel like I got the resources that I needed to manage my health and lifestyle. They told me to quit smoking and lose weight. And I was in a highly stressful job. I was in the military at the time. So here you are, like, they don't really give you these tools, and they're doing their best, but it's really difficult when you feel that way and then you don't have necessarily the resources that you need. And I love that you're filling this niche here, this place of letting know that, hey, you don't have to take away all of the things in order for you to support your health. It could be just as easy as like you said, getting something that works for you, finding that bridge for you. And that's being able to support women through that is really important.
1,000%, 1,000%, because it's about meeting the woman where she is in her
Exactly.
journey, right? If a woman is coming to me and the majority of her food is highly processed, there's step one.
Yeah.
Step one, let's move to whole foods. We don't need to go gluten-free. We don't go dairy-free, all these things. Those have a place in certain aspects of a journey for certain women. But,
Yes.
when we get the advice of remove this, remove that, or just lose weight, just eat less and move more. I love that. I love that.
That is so frustrating. Oh yeah, and it's well-intentioned advice that comes from usually dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. Dudes are like, even unfortunately, sometimes practitioners, when
Yes.
a woman
Mhm.
struggles with that and she goes to her primary care, which is the first
Yeah,
step, you should be doing that, or your
absolutely.
OBGYN,
Mhm.
and they're met with the advice of, oh, you have PCOS, well, just lose weight. That will help.
Right.
Cool thing
Right.
about PCOS is that it causes weight gain. So it's really contradictory just to say, just lose weight. It oversimplifies it and also
Yes.
just diminishes the pain that the
It's
woman is in. And it's not
absolutely.
helpful.
It's kind of demoralizing because you're
Yeah.
like, well, I kind of have been. I seriously, I was doing hardcore 6 days a week, probably harder physical training while I was in the military and on mandatory training. Um, that you just literally, that's not. And I was eating, felt like I was eating like a rabbit. I probably wasn't eating enough. And that comes up
Sure.
too, right?
Yeah.
We sometimes have women that are cutting back so much and just eating salads and stuff and not getting enough of the macros that they need, the protein or, to balance their sugars or anything like that. But yeah, meeting the women where they're at, that is huge because how often do they come the, on the internet or look on social media and it's just cut this, cut that. And you're like, I am so far away from that. It's like looking at Mount
Yep.
Everest. How are you going to do that? So what is one of the things? Okay, so you had mentioned that, if a woman comes to you and she's just been recently diagnosed with PCOS and, maybe she is trying to get pregnant, what are some things that you would recommend to her? Maybe she eats kind of a standard American diet. She eats okay, but, maybe hasn't just really thought about this stuff. How do you kind of shift her into this mindset of this lifestyle kind of shift in order for her to be successful in her goals?
Sure. Sure. So with any woman with a hormonal condition, PCOS, etc., I love the education piece first. I love that because a lot of women don't get that. Unfortunately, they're
Yeah.
diagnosed with PCOS or another hormone condition, and they were never really shown their labs. They weren't really given any specifics of
Mm-hmm.
the condition. So first and foremost, I love to recommend getting labs done. I love to look at labs all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's what
Me
I
too.
do. Yeah, that's what I do because power is knowledge.
Yes.
And when you have knowledge, you are empowered to make better decisions for yourself.
Mhm.
And whatever condition that you might have, if you don't know, it's a guess game. And as we know, there's
Absolutely.
multiple types of PCOS, right? So
Right.
like we want to test to see exactly first, let's see what type you have. Let's dig deeper into this diagnosis and actually see what's going on. What is the root cause of the diagnosis? Let's dig deeper. And that could look like depending on what the woman needs and what she's coming for could look like a blood hormone panel comprehensive. It could look like a Dutch test, which is a more higher level test that
Mhm.
we can break down basically metabolites of those hormones and see deeper as to what could potentially be reabsorbed back in the body, which is also a whole thing. Or maybe we want to do a GI map to see
Right.
deeper in the gut as to what's going on, because that's also a different piece of PCOS for some women. So getting more information about her lived experience, her, again, previous and current, if she's on any type of birth control or medications, things of that nature. But let's get labs. Let's actually see where the PCOS is stemming from if we can, and dig at that a little bit. Dig at that because that's going to tell us what to actually do moving forward. So we're not just doing a blanket, oh, you have PCOS,
Right.
do these three things. And that's why I tell everybody that's no, like everyone's different.
This concept of root cause. I mean, I have been, first off, personally going through this for a decade. I mean, I've probably been going up, but I've been diagnosed for a decade. I didn't come across the idea of root cause until about 2 years ago, right at the end of my nursing degree. And it blew my mind in just understanding the difference between um kind of putting a band-aid on it or symptom treating, which is usually what happens is, they say, oh, here's PCOS, here's birth control, come back to us when you're pregnant or when you want to get pregnant, and we'll go through fertility medications. There's this missing part about addressing the actual part. Like, yes, do we know all the ins and outs of how PCOS is? We know that's a combination of genetics and environmental factors and how they relate to each other, and that it's different for everybody. But what is, actually looking at the root cause, like I didn't understand that insulin resistance, I mean, until like I'm a healthcare professional. And so like I want to emphasize this is like getting these labs done, finding out what is it specifically for you, taking a look at your specific symptoms, and then moving from that direction, you're going to be so much more effective.
Yep, 100%, just like you said, because ultimately, say, for example, if a woman has more of the insulin resistant side of PCOS, we need to see that in labs, and you can't just guess, right? Or you could see the adrenal side of PCOS. Like, again, you can see that in labs, but if you're just blanket statement, I have PCOS, so I just do X, Y, and Z, that's not enough. Like we can do better than that. Right. And when we're actually able to address it, say, for example, if we do see it, her PCOS showing up more in the adrenal side, awesome. We can work really heavily on the stress management, right? And reducing inflammation and things of that nature. But we know what to actually shoot for, right?
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
Just telling a woman to remove everything and just, it's like, we tell people from a fitness and nutrition perspective, don't go out the gate with a sprint. You change things a little bit over time. It's the exact same thing with women who have PCOS. We don't go all out the gate out of nowhere. And you don't even need to. And it's extremely inefficient waste of time.
Yes.
But let's just actually attack what's actually going on. And that's it. It's so empowering to know that information.
That focused, not only is it more effective, but it's personal, right? And so when you're working with somebody and you want to have, give them the best path that they can to reach their goals. And so when someone is battling both a challenging chronic, condition, it doesn't go away. There is no cure, but we can reverse symptoms and we can improve those things. Sure. But that interaction between environments, I mean, those things are going to stick around. And then you add on top of that the challenges of trying to conceive and taking those into consideration too, because you're going to have different requirements for nutrition and things like that. It's a balance. So if you can at least narrow down what it is that you're looking for, and it really does start with the labs and getting somebody to have a conversation with labs that isn't just going to be like, oh, that's just you get high testosterone. Oh, it's because you have PCOS. Well, yeah. Okay. Oh, you have high LH, or luteinizing hormones, right? Okay. Well, that means that I might have difficulty ovulating. Let's take a look at that. Let's go and start looking at these things. Is it adrenal? Is it, or more insulin driven? Is it inflammation and gut driven, right? These things are all the things. And it could be a combination, but you start from somewhere. You start from your starting point. So when we're talking about fitness, I would love to discuss what considerations should women with PCOS keep in mind when planning their kind of fitness routine, or kind of what's going to be the like a starting point for somebody who maybe has lived a sedentary lifestyle or maybe just haven't been inconsistent. Where's a good place to start?
With what makes you happy. Thinking about movement in a way that is, it's an epiphany. No, thinking about movement in a way, it doesn't have to be the gym. Yes. It doesn't have to be biking. It doesn't have to be, it could be just moving your body in a way that brings you joy and happiness. Like I mentioned before, stress management and mental health, I think it is largely ignored in
Yes.
our society in general, but especially in the space of women's hormone health.
Yeah.
Everything is connected. Everything is connected.
Mhm.
And I don't think it does any woman any favors to start an exercise regimen that she hates.
Yeah.
I would rather who do nothing at that point. Honestly, I truly would, or just walk,
Yeah.
because again, if you aren't doing something that brings you joy and releases endorphins, then it's just this negative feedback loop of
Mhm.
just keeping you in a state of not living at the highest quality life that you could, that is
Yes.
possible for you. It's so important to have fun. And that's my first thing. It can be a group fitness class. It could be Zumba. It could be taking a walk a few times a day in the sun, just getting that vitamin D, right?
Yeah.
It could be going to the dog park with your pet, right? And throwing the ball around. It
Mhm.
could be playing with your kids. It could be gardening. Any type of way that you're moving your body, yoga. Like there's no wrong answer. The
Yeah.
wrong answer is feeling like you have to do something that you hate because so and so said it was what women with PCOS should do. And I'm
Yep.
like, let's circle back again, back to the human. Let's start and meet her where she is.
This quality of life point is like at the center. You said that and it like rang a bell in me because this is literally at the center of what I believe in. And I love hearing that because I feel like we take that. I don't know. I feel like sometimes we can take that out of context or not see the importance of our happiness, our joy right now. Like this is our life. This is the life we get to live. And if we're sitting there and, if you love to run, then run.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
not me. I hated the entire decade I was forced to run. I hated it every second of it. And they told me that I was lazy. They told me like I didn't and that I didn't care about my body or that and it's just all of these things. But that's the thing. It's like, no, get up and you know dance or shake your booty to 50 Cent in the kitchen,
Yeah.
or like whatever whatever it is that is filling you with love, filling you with joy, connecting you to your body, bringing you to the present moment, because this is where life is happening, is the right here right now. Yeah, okay, there's things that you can build in later,
Sure.
absolutely. We
Yeah.
do know uh overall health recommendation obviously would be to strength training along with movement and things like that, um yeah, you got to start from where you're at. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
that is on the money. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
Um
and like you said, strength training is great.
yeah,
It's great, it's great. And I'm such a believer in it. I love strength training. It makes you feel so strong and so
oh,
powerful as a
mhm.
woman. So from like a mindset perspective, it's phenomenal. And some women, again, like they might go into that initially, or some women maybe later or whatever it might be, but just moving your body in general is the first step. And then, like you said, you can get into those other things like strength training later. Or again, if that's something that you're like, yeah, I want to lift heavy stuff and put it down, like that's me, go for it. I recommend it, go for it. But yeah,
Yeah.
strength training is absolutely a huge piece to helping us with PCOS, but also as women.
So are there any like kind of fitness or nutrition related myths or misconceptions that you would like to talk about, especially around PCOS? I think we kind of talked about a little bit of it, that you have to eliminate all the things, right? Let's talk about that. Like, just what are you here to kind of set the record straight when it comes to this kind of fitness and lifestyle um, movement in the PCOS world?
Oh goodness, man, can I give five?
Yeah, yeah, do it.
Uh, thank I heard in the DMs, had like literal conversations. One, a myth is that if you have PCOS, you can't lose weight. I've had a doctor tell that to one of my clients, that she will not be able to lose weight if she has PCOS,
Wow.
which is a complete lie. It is a complete lie. And to tell someone that, it makes them feel defeated. So then they
Yeah.
might not try to live a healthier
Mhm.
lifestyle because you just told them, a doctor that she was trusting told them that, oh, you have PCOS, so you're not going to be able to lose weight.
Yeah.
How defeating is that? So
Absolutely.
that's not true at all. And that's one for sure. Another one would be that to quote unquote fix PCOS is just to go on birth control. That's one that I see a lot of. And the problem with that is that, as we know, birth control simply masks the symptoms. It doesn't actually do anything for the root cause of PCOS. And because it does, quote unquote, shut down your hormone, like endogenous hormone production, if we get labs, it's a little bit trickier to see from a sex hormone perspective if there is a true progesterone to estrogen issue. The ratio is going to naturally be off because you're on birth control. So you can't really see what your body was normally doing. And so it's a little bit more challenging to navigate that specifically. And you're not really solving anything in the long term. You're just kind of managing the symptoms. Covering it up. Yeah. And so that is not a solution. Birth control is not a solution to PCOS. That's something just to be aware of yourself. Oh goodness, what else? The other pieces of, if you have PCOS, you must remove, or I should say eliminates the better term, all gluten, all dairy, artificial sweeteners, Lord, what else?
Sugar.
Sugar, yes, sugar, thank you. The problem is the word eliminate.
Yeah.
Because women are already driven in a scarcity mindset by the way our society preaches nutrition and and exercise. It's about all the things we have to give up.
Yeah.
And so you tack on that most likely already disordered eating and tell a woman, oh, by the way, now you have to eliminate all these things. What do you think that does? I think it does more harm from a mental perspective than it actually does well for the body. Because most of the time we've found with the clients we work with who have PCOS, we don't have to eliminate anything. We can simply moderate it. Maybe we reduce the consumption of that thing slightly, but most often than not, we just simply focus more on whole foods in general versus worrying about all of that. Right. And maybe we tinker with it a little bit, but very, very, very rarely is it a complete elimination. So I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see what happens when you start focusing on what you can eat and adding more, vegetables, even like, fruits and vegetables, and understanding how when you start adding these whole foods, these proteins that are, actual like food. So whether you're, a vegetarian or vegan or, an omnivore, then you're adding these things in their closest state that you can to what they are, then suddenly something changes and you don't feel like you're necessarily depriving yourself. Your taste buds change, you feel better. And so you kind of continue that instead of thinking about it as, oh, I can't eat this or I can't eat that, or stressing about it when you go to events. I went to a wedding this weekend and, it's like I had to sit here and just kind of look and say, okay, I'm going to make the best choices I can right now. I filled my plate with half a broccoli. I had a little piece of chicken. I left off the, all the cheesy, things, but I filled myself and then I still had a cupcake because I wanted to,
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's more than just the physical body, right? I said the mental side of it as well, and just living your life and being happy and not going to a social event with anxiety.
Yes.
Like that's the type of messaging when we say eliminate, that's what that does. And at that point, quality of life is negatively impacted. So is that approach actually sustainable, but is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth it when you can get the same results with not doing that or better, I would say?
Yeah. And then you're adding to your stress, right? Which is contributing to the worsening of your PCOS symptoms, right? When you add on to that stress and that anxiety, now you're making things worse. So was you stressing out about not eating that cupcake worth all the cortisol you just pumped into your system? Like really, I mean, obviously it's, things in moderation. And I love this approach of keeping your quality of life, seeing what works for you. Of course, if you have allergies and sensitivity, that's not what we're talking. We're talking about like, you don't have to take everything away from you and make you feel like you're living in this box, because you know what? You're already going through the fertility stuff. Like if that's what you're going through, then you already feel like you're kind of trapped in this box anyway. So bring yourself back to balance, bring your movement, your food and everything, bring it back to center, because that is where you are going to find your joy. That is where you're going to find your best life, is right there. So Anything else you'd like to add on that myths and misconceptions there on fitness?
Oh man. I mean, those pretty
Are the
much
big
cover it
ones.
to a degree. I would just say for any woman listening that really pay attention to black and white statements
Yeah.
when it comes to PCOS or any hormone condition. I think that's the number one takeaway from like a myth busting is if there is a statement, saying all women with this have to do X.
Yeah.
I would just, take that with a grain of salt a little bit because
Mhm.
there is so much gray area in women's health. And I know you and I talked about this briefly, and I feel like a lot of women might benefit from this, information, but we need to remember that the research on women specifically is not lengthy at all. It's not deep. We have to remember that research on exercise and nutrition, women were not required to be a part of those studies until 1993.
Yes.
And the reason why is because we have cycles and they didn't want that to be a variable in
Which
data.
blows my mind because that's literally the driving force for all the things is our
So yeah,
hormone and our
right.
cycle.
Absolutely. And so basically they weren't doing studies on humans, they were doing studies on men, specifically white men
Yeah.
were in the studies.
Right. If we're gonna
So
bring that in there too.
that's all the research that we have. And so in 1990s, they started making, researchers include women. However, we have to consider that it takes a good amount of time from information to get from research to application. There's about a 17-year delay.
Yeah.
So we
Mhm.
really only had application of women's health, fitness, nutrition for 13 years.
Right. And that's
So here we are.
this,
Here we are.
I mean, and that is minuscule in the research and healthcare. I mean, it takes because you still have physicians and that are still operating under these old
Yep,
trainings, and
absolutely.
honestly they just don't have the nutrition and lifestyle training because look how much they have to learn. I mean, it's just,
Absolutely.
and so when they go through medical school, if they went through medical school 30 years ago, guess what? That research wasn't out. It
Yep,
wasn't out. And that's why it's important to, you know, find people that are focused on the newest research and what's coming
absolutely.
up, and understanding that this is an evolving understanding about our condition, about PCOS. It's not just, oh yeah, okay, this is what we know. I mean, they're talking about changing the name, of PCOS because it's more of a metabolic issue
Yep,
rather
it's
than.
not like ovarian.
Yes, and that's huge in understanding that this is affecting every single part of your system. This is not just your reproductive. And on one side of that, it's almost encouraging because that means there's things we can do.
Sure.
There, our lifestyle, our sleep. Okay, so what are some strategies that you would like to recommend to women who are just kind of starting out on their either kind of lifestyle change journey? What are some strategies for staying motivated and consistent? I know we talked about doing these things that we love, is a really important step. What else would you recommend to somebody who's just kind of getting started out?
Sure. I think the first step is who's around you for support.
Yeah.
Our environment dictates our motivation and our accountability a lot,
Hmm.
right? Does your partner know that you want to embark on a healthier lifestyle or a lifestyle that is more conducive with managing your PCOS? Let them know.
Hmm.
Don't even know though, how can they support you?
Yes. Be
Sometimes we got to give them a
specific.
little bit of guidance.
Be specific in what it is that you need, and especially when you're making these changes, if it's hard, right? If they're sitting there eating a pint of ice cream every night when that's maybe not supporting you, it's challenging. So let them know and speak up and be clear. And that's why it is important to have a good environment, having mentors and coaches and people that are going to support you, because it gets tough. It does get tough sometimes. We fall back into old habits. So having a good environment, having the right people on your team is absolutely essential. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the first thing is your environment, getting that support system down. And also too, creating an actual plan for yourself that
Mhm.
again is fun that you would like,
Yes.
but it's achievable. So that doesn't mean I'm going to exercise or go to the gym 6 days a week. That means if I've been doing nothing, let's try twice.
Yeah.
Doing that thing twice, right? And then just looking at the nutrition side of things and getting a plan together. And by a plan, I don't mean this restrictive, I'm gonna eat the same thing every day, measure my food out on a scale. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, let's maybe look at taking pictures of your food, or just like generally having an idea of how much you're consuming from a portion perspective. Really helpful. Because like you mentioned before, a lot of women in general undereat protein. That's a great place to start. Just focus on the protein intake.
Focus on your protein.
You know, that's easy. So those simple things. So again, support, and then starting an exercise regimen that is very doable based on where you're at. Not, you know, again, not 6 days a week. If you've been doing nothing, just start with two to three, maybe. And then focusing on maybe the number one thing you can do for nutrition, maybe the number one, like, just variable that could be holding you back. Maybe it's protein intake, maybe it's snacking, just that's it. That's it.
Yep.
You don't gotta reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to be a complete 180. Just focus on one thing you can improve in your nutrition, whatever that is. And then lastly, I would just remind you, stress management, self-care, boundaries, saying no to things you don't want to do, saying yes to things you want to do, and not being guilty for saying yes to what you so it's more of like the mental component, like I mentioned. But that's how you stay motivated, right? Is you get people on your team, you set a plan that is doable, and you take care of yourself.
Yep.
Like, that's it.
That's and that really is, I mean, it breaks it down into this very doable, very achievable piece, right? And everybody's going to be starting in somewhere different. And so what may be a starting place for you may be different for somebody else. And that's why it's really important to kind of have this individualized plan. Well, I think that's a great segue into, I would love to talk about what you are going to be giving to everybody that in offering to everybody here that's at the summit. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to give this to y'all. So when Corey, when you asked me, I was like, you know what? Like, there's there's so much out there. How can I condense it and make it super simple, but then also have some type of implementation involved? So what I've created for all of you is a quick PDF resource that you can download, print. You know, it's very user friendly, but it goes into, like we mentioned before, the 4 types of PCOS, but more importantly, how to manage each type and how they're just a little bit different. So giving you some nuggets in there about what you could do if you do know what type that you have, but also if you don't know what type you have, how to help you figure that out. So that is a plethora of information in that PDF that you can kind of, go through, and light reading day, maybe on a Sunday, sipping tea.
Yes.
But also, well, spearmint tea in the morning. Yeah. So what you could also do at the bottom of that resource is the implementation piece. Like I mentioned before, I would love to offer all of you, and this is not something we do all the time because obviously capacity, but I would love to offer guys exclusively because I know how important it is. And also too, I know how women with PCOS, we are bombarded with information. And so while I want to give you information, I do want to give you some implementation. So we will have a link at the bottom of that resource that if you have questions or want support, we do what's called free strategy calls. These are 15, 30-minute calls with myself and or my head coach on my team. She's my hormone specialist. And these are completely for free, where you would just click on that link and you fill out quickly just short information about what you're struggling with. And we set up a quick call to give you advice. That is literally all it is. It's not, we're not pitching anything. It's literally just, girl, what you got? Like, let's talk through this. So at least you have a step in the right direction. And also on that call, we can give you additional free resources that we have that would work for you specifically. Because again, every woman's journey is so different that even this resource I'm sending to you, it's not enough. It truly isn't. It's good information, but it's not enough. So we will be offering that as well. And you're welcome to use it. Or you can just join our Facebook group and just passively watch along and learn more and just whatever you want to do. So I'd love to send that to you all.
That's so amazing. I love that. It's so great to be giving this to women because so many of us need this in this space. We need even if it's just somebody to talk to for a few minutes about these things that we've been going through. And that is so important to have that, and then, get a little bit of an action plan. What is it that we can do today? So, of course, I will have, for you wonderful people out there watching, I will have the link listed for Alicia's free gift. You'll be able to download that, and you'll have access to it in the Facebook group as well. And so, of course, you can find Alycia on Instagram,
Yep.
at Alycia Fit.
So it's Alycia, it's just my name, Alycia Israel, super easy,
Alycia
easy
Israel.
to
Okay.
figure out. So yeah, just last name spelled like the country.
Yep.
And then, yeah, that's it.
Got it. Yep. And we'll have a link to your socials on there as well. And yeah, this has been such a fantastic conversation. And I love that we've had the opportunity to just really start to dive in. Of course, I feel like we just barely scratched the surface, but there's so much love here. And I feel that from you. I love it. I love that you're here just helping change women's lives and understand that not all hope is lost. Not everything has to be do or die. You can take control back. You can, support yourself in ways that are manageable and maintainable, and that is fantastic. So, I did want to leave our listeners with one last little nugget. So, what is the one thing you would like to say to a woman who's experiencing fertility challenges with PCOS?
You're not alone.
Ah,
That's the number one thing. You're not alone, and there is support for you.
yeah.
Keeping an advocate for your health.
Yes.
It, you might have to go from a different doctor, different practitioner. That is okay. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just simply means they haven't caught up yet, but you're not alone. There's so many women that are in this boat, but there is support for you. Just keep looking for it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alycia. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit here and talk with us. And it has been an absolute pleasure. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you so much, girl.